Hi, everybody. Welcome to the You Friendly Banter. Today, we'll be talking about a less talked about, yet incredibly powerful concept Manas or Mansik Puja. It's spoken of in both Hinduism and in Buddhism, and something that I was very fortunate to experience during my recent Buddhist retreat. And I've practiced it many times before, and each time it has felt equally magical and even miraculous. So I thought, why not share it in my own way, which is very psycho spiritual, and I want to share it with some backing by the saints and some stories or some texts, and of course, with perspectives from science. And Swami Sivananda, if you're aware and if you're a regular viewer on this channel, you will know that he's one of my all time favorite teacher saints. He has called this particular form of worship higher than external rituals, more powerful than all of them. And the best part is that anybody, whosoever it is, no matter which religion or where you're from, what condition you are in, you can always do it. And I was planning to start this series with Japa Yoga, by the way, which is considered as the first stepping stone of yoga. But I realized that this topic, it needs to come first because it works as tilling of the soil or as a preparation before immersing in Japa. Of course, you can move on and integrate as many yogic practices like Kundalini Yoga, Hatha Yoga, pranayama, whatever, as many as you want. Of course, under guidance of a guru. But this, I think, is something which everybody on the path should be aware of. As always, before we talk about anything under the sun, here's a non dual reminder. People often say that they don't have time or space for worship or puja or meditation, they don't have temples or flowers or incense or money, all of these things. So, how can they worship? But the truth is that God, the Spirit, or whatever you call it does not need anything from you, nothing from us. So worship is never about giving things to God or to universe or which is already the all, by the way, the creator, the creation, and even this act of offering itself. It's just about training the mind to see that there is no separation, that we too are that. So everything that we discuss in this video, Mansik Puja, Japa, visualization, the parallels from Buddhism and the offerings and everything, it's just a skillful beginning. Just like opening a door to Nirgun Brahm from Sagun Brahm, which means the form bound divine towards the formless divine. The duality has to go. And your pure self, the Atman, it doesn't act, it just witnesses. And the one who offers, the one whom it is offered, and this entire act, they are not separate from each other. But since we are embodied and we are so related and so attached to our body and everything that's happening in the world, these practices, they purify the mind and they train our attention towards what's real. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm personally very averse to mechanical rituals without understanding. And every path of worship, it ultimately leads to the knowledge of Supreme, though it may begin with the desire of results. So no one really is born spiritually disciplined, and it's perfectly fine if you want anything else, except the liberation. So because you're a human and you're allowed to do that. But if you're on a spiritual path, your mind has to be trained. You have to train your mind. So every single thing that I'll be discussing in this video, whether it's puja, Bhava-Samādhi, jap, or whatever, it belongs to the Sagun plane, this form-based plane, this realm of form and polarity. This was just a little reminder, and I'm really sorry for taking up whatever time I did just to say this because I never, never, never want any listener or any viewer to get into these throes of duality even more, where they think that they have to please God or God is some higher being that they have to do something for and all of that. Because no, you don't have to do anything. You're already divine. You're already realized. It's just that you just have to remember that bit, and it might take a little practice and maybe a couple of lifetimes, but that's fine. Okay, so remove your anxiety, remove your striving, and you don't worship to reach God. You just worship to remove that illusion. To reiterate, as I always do again, I want to share one of my most favorite couplets or walks from Lalla. I love her. I love her so, so, so much. She was a 14th century Kashmiri mystic, and she expresses the same truth, but in very beautiful language, language of, I think, my heart. She says, "You are the sky and the earth, day, wind, breath, night. You are grain, sandal paste, flower, water, substance of my offering. You who are all, what shall I offer to you?" Here she is speaking directly to the primordial and all encompassing aspect of Shiva. the same consciousness that every single tradition has named in its own way, whether it's Mahavishnu, Adiparashakti, Holy Spirit, Tao, Great Spirit, the Source, Paramatman, or whatever, all of that. So here she's describing the moment when the mind, it just recognizes that all giving and receiving, it happens within the undivided field of awareness. Every single thing. And from here, we can begin to explore our main topic today, which is the Mansik Puja, and how the infinite pretends to be human, performs worship within its own heart, and sort of remembers what it always was. Now, Mansik means of the mind, and Puja means offering or adoration or worship. And together, this means mental worship, the offering made entirely within the consciousness. And in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that whoever offers to me with love, even a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I accept it. So, one thing is clear, that it's not the object that matters. It's the bhakti, the inward offering. When the feeling is pure, even the simplest gesture, like very small gestures, they become complete worship. I've personally experienced this in my life. And the mind or manas, and I've talked about this in previous podcast on thought power, which was also by Swamiji. You'll know what manas is from that one. He says that this mind or manas, it's the key instrument of upasana or the worship, the practice of approaching the divine. So when the intellect holds the reins very steady and the mind follows, the senses move toward the self and not away from it. And this particular puja, which is Manas Pūjā, it does exactly the same. It teaches the mind to stay rooted in awareness. As I've mentioned before, it's considered one of the highest forms of upasana because it demands concentration, purity, and imagination. And no place, no utensils, no time restrictions, just a quiet, sincere mind. So here, worship becomes meditation and meditation becomes worship. In Manas Pūjā, the devotee imagines the Lord vividly, seeing, touching, feeling the presence in the heart, and mentally performs all 16 upchars like offering seed, water, sandal paste, flowers, light, incense, every single thing inwardly, one by one. And this ritual becomes so immersive that the devotee, the worship, and the deity, they begin to merge. Exact thing that we were talking about moments ago. So outer ritual can sometimes trap the attention in the objects, by the way. Did I forget the flower? Did I pronounce the mantra correctly? Did I bring this and that? Sometimes it brings ego that I have given this and this to the temple or the church and all of those things. And the mind keeps scattering, and the goal is never reached, liberation or self realization. But in this particular puja, nothing external can distract you. You have to be humble about it, even if you're offering, say, all the wealth of the world to the deity or the divine in your imagination. If you're a tad bit aware of how energy works, you'll know that how it's everywhere, whether visible to the naked eyes or not. And it is always, always, always working at subtle level. So you can check the aura video for this. I think this is why a beggar might be richer than a millionaire in reality, because he has love and feeling, if not the money, and doesn't wish for his name to be written on the bricks of the temple and all of that, which people do these days. It's just heart opening of its own kind, pure love, just you and the divine, no middleman, nothing. That's why I think all the saints, they call this as the first step to samadhi. And Swamiji writes that mental worship is more powerful than external worship with flowers and lamps because it removes the dependence on material conditions. So the mind becomes a temple, your I think attention will become the priest, and feeling, it becomes the offering. Swamiji shares a beautiful story from Mahabharata. He says that Arjun, he believed he was performing the most perfect worship of Lord Shiva. Every single day he offered baskets of bilva leaves, those belpatra, at the shrine, and but to his surprise, he found the altar already covered with countless leaves before he even arrived. When he asked the divine attendants, where did these leaves come from, they replied that from Bhim. He offered them mentally. And Bhim, who was his brother, hadn't moved from his seat even once. He had simply visualized offering every bilva leaf in the world to Lord Shiva. And Shiva had accepted it as real. The story sort of reveals the power of worship that lies in awareness and not activity, not mindless activity. Arjun was stunned and he realized that Bhim's Mansik Puja, it was deeper than his own elaborate rituals because it was done with undivided mind and feeling. The outer act means nothing without inner offering. The third picture that you can see on the screen is of Saint Tukaram, again, one of my favorite saints. His story is really worth knowing, and so is his poetry, by the way. And a lot of it during his time had terrified the religious because they thought that it was blasphemous or whatever, but all it talked about was oneness. Never mind. So, Saint Tukaram said that the seat that I give to God is my heart. I enshrine the Lord upon it. The water of my love and affection is his bath, and my humble feelings are his sandal paste. The jasmine flower is the quiet purity of my mind. My sattvic bhav, or the purity of my mind, is his basil leaf or tulsi. And my wrath, which is the anger, I kindle into a lamp of knowledge. I offer the best food to Krishna. And finally, I offer my five pranas. Now, nothing is left within me. This, I think, is Manas Pūjā in full bloom, and almost a mental rehearsal of liberation itself. Now, coming to how Manas Pūjā works. But before that, I would like to share a very beautiful little anecdote or story about a saint called Surdas. Surdas was a blind poet saint, and he could not perform any kind of outer worship. He couldn't see the form of Lord Krishna or decorate an altar. But through the intensity of his inner devotion, he would visualize Krishna's face, his voice, his gestures. And all of this was so vivid that the boundary between imagination and reality ended up dissolving. His entire puja was mental, an act of awareness and love. And it's said that Krishna himself came to listen Surdas sing, because Surdas would imagine that. And that's how Mānas Pūjā works, or this Mānsik Puja works. The mind creates that image, heart infuses it with a lot of feeling and awareness. It transforms it into a living presence. And when that presence deepens, the external and the internal, they become one field. I guess there will also be an explanation of mind and matter and manifestation of energy and everything. Swami Sivananda, he gives precise instructions on how to do this practice. And taking cues from his teachings, by the way, I'll soon upload a guided visualization. But anybody from any background can do it without mantras or rituals, and it'll simply be about awareness, imagination, and willingness to release the ego. Now, coming back to the science of it, when you visualize in Manas Puja, your brain, it can't really differentiate between physical and imagined action. Sometimes they say that we cook our memories and we think that those things happened for real, because our brain cannot differentiate it. Similarly, it happens with visualizations, which means that the nervous system, it starts responding to it as if the act is real. It's like the placebo for the mind. So when you imagine washing the Lord's feet, the same sensory and emotional circuits, they activate as if you were physically doing it. The heart rate synchronizes and the breath slows down, and oxytocin and serotonin, they rise, and your body, it gets into that mood and that feeling of devotion through this imagery. So it's not woo woo or mystical stuff. It's just very scientific, actually. For me, it has reduced my stress and anxiety and all of that, because it reorganizes your inner experience around that one pointed field, one pointed love, one pointed attention. So when you offer sandal paste, you imagine its coolness that's touching the divine form, and eventually to you. Then you offer water and you pour out all your emotions and ego, and you offer fruit and you offer the sweetness of your own life energy or your love, something like that. So here's the message that Swamiji has explained. Mine will be, of course, a little different, but this is what he says. He says that sit quietly, ideally during Brahma Muhurat, around about 4 a.m., when the mind is very clear and receptive, and the saints and yogis, all of them, they are meditating, and the vibrations of meditation, stillness, love, and divinity, all of that are in the atmosphere. So your mind will naturally incline towards meditation. Then visualize your chosen form of divine, Ishtadevta, or anything that you want to manifest. He doesn't say this, but yeah, you can do that if you don't have any other form that you believe in. So just imagine it in front of you or in your heart and repeat this visualization several times. If you have a photograph, that's amazing. You can keep on looking at the photograph and then mentally repeat that image. You know, keep on doing that several times until the inner picture becomes extremely clear and particular and luminous, as if you are seeing it with naked eyes. And once it stabilizes, then you do your job. You enthrone the Lord on jeweled seat, offer a beautiful asan, apply the sandal paste, and offer water, food, incense, camphor, light, sweets, and then offer the best of everything that you can imagine. Offer all the fruits of the world. Wave all the lights and incenses mentally. Let that fragrance of those incenses from your mind reach your heart. And trust me, if you are lucky, you might actually smell it. And throughout the practice, keep on repeating inwardly. This is what Swamiji says, by the way, that whatever I do, by body, speech, mind, senses, and intellect, I offer it to the Supreme Lord. I offer all of it to the Supreme Lord. It's the Kayana Vacha Manse Direva. It's a beautiful Sanskrit shlok. I'll write it in the description box below. And then he says, conclude with Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu, which means may all this be offered unto Brahman. And then you have to fix your awareness in your heart as the seat of the divine light. If the visualization feels a little difficult, just focus on the radiant glow. You'll be able to find it, especially in those wee hours of the morning. And keep on dwelling in this feeling, he says, that you and the Lord are one, that the Lord has accepted your offerings, that your thoughts are his thoughts, and your love is his extension, his reflection. And as your visualization strengthens, your offering will become effortless. It'll happen just like that. You'll be able to connect anytime, anywhere. And the distinction between me and you and all of this, it'll begin to fade. This is where the heart awakening starts. This is where that Bhāva-Samādhi, or absorption in the divine feeling and everything, it'll arise naturally. It's a state where your mm, devotion, it deepens. It ripens into silence, where you don't need to imagine anything, where you don't need to think or say or do anything. And your heart, the mantra, the divine, all of these offerings, and even this mental effort, every single thing will dissolve into one single awareness. But before we talk about Bhava-Samadhi, I really want to talk about the parallel that I found in Buddhism for the same thing. And it's from Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism both, one that reflects the same essence as Manas Pūjā. In Buddhist monasteries, the practitioners, they still fill 7 water bowls each morning. When I was at the retreat recently, our teacher, actually last time he told us this, and he was also a monk. He said that when the Buddhists, they came to India, they saw how Indians were offering food and flowers and lamps and incense to their gods, and they adopted the same beautiful principle, but they did it mentally with their eyes closed. And also, the water is used because in Tibet it is traditionally plentiful and free, painless to give. So the idea is, give as freely as you would give water. Give whatever you want. So each bowl, it represents an offering, like water for drinking, water for bathing, fragrance, flowers, incense, light, and food. And the purpose of this entire offering is just to cultivate generosity, to reduce selfishness, stinginess, and greed. It's not about the object, but about releasing attachment, about giving freely, opening your heart. And I recently read, and I'll provide a link in the description box, where they say that each bowl, it also symbolizes one of the 7 aspects of prayer: the prostration, making offerings to the Buddhas, confessing one's wrongs, rejoicing in others' goodness, requesting the Buddhas to remain in the world, beseeching them to continue teaching, and dedicating the merit of all beings for the happiness of all. And when performed properly, monks and lay practitioners, they visualize offering entire universes of beauty and virtue and endless flowers and clothes and fragrances and jewels and radiant worlds and all of that to all the Buddhas and to all beings. I think that's so beautiful. I find it amazing. This is pure generosity without ownership. It's so cute. And this energetic act of compassion, it just unites mindfulness and prayer and visualization all at once. There's no sense of I am the giver, or somebody else is the taker and all of that. It's just pure energy and not matter. It's just releasing those tightly held notions of physical form and possession. And when I was at the retreat, we were told to make as many offerings as we wished on the last day, and I've always loved doing it. I would offer the Buddhas all the clothes, medicines, food, and water in the world, and um, then just pray them. I'll just pray to distribute it to the people who actually need it anywhere in the world. It's just my way of, I think, bowing down and making my prayer. But that's what I did, and it gave me so much peace, immense amount of peace. Each day we visualized this image of Shakyamuni Buddha, as you can see on the screen, and we would do a purification practice, and it was incredibly powerful. I cannot share those experiences, but trust me, they were truly miraculous for almost everyone in the retreat. And the stillness, the light, the luminosity, the compassion that we felt, that arose from that particular image that we were imagining, it became like a presence, like a living presence of a teacher, your deity or someone that you love right in front of you. And I think for me at least, it was not imagination anymore. And if this is not Mansik Puja, I don't know what is. So the thought and energy, they merge, until this mental offering, it becomes energetic reality. And I missed mentioning this, but at the end of the practice, the monks, they return the water to the earth. It's just to remind ourselves that even the merit, it is not to be clung to. We don't have to cling to it, and you offer it, you bless it, and then you release. So whether it's Bhim offering bilva leaves to Shiva, or Tukaram offering his heart to Krishna, or Vittal, and Buddhist monks pouring water for the Buddha, the crux or the essence is the same: offer without attachment. And when this offering becomes total with a lot of love, that transforms into Bhava-Samādhi. Now, Bhav means the emotional tone, the Bhav. It's everything. Without it, worship is mechanical. You are just, I shouldn't say this, but trust me, wasting your time. Because with it, every single thing that you do, even if you commit quote unquote mistakes while doing a ritual or meditation or whatever, those mistakes become sacred. Swami Sivananda says that Mansik Puja or Manas Pūjā can be done by advanced students, because it requires strong visualization and deep concentration, above all, feeling. He jokes that if someone imagines offering only a stale plantain or handful of gram mentally, it shows that they are miserly. That generosity, it must exist in thought as much as in deed. When you vividly imagine an act like lighting a lamp or bowing, the same neural circuits, so to speak, they activate as in when you perform it physically. So that is exactly what's going to manifest even in real life. Becoming capable enough to offer those things, maybe in matter, in form. Sometimes people are stingy even in their imagination. So you have to go imagining whatever you want to offer in the world, like in full throttle. Do whatever you want. Offer all of it. Bhima offered all leaves from all the bilva trees. So you can imagine what I'm trying to say. And I think it's very important to say that all of this, even though might sound as if it's escapism or whatever, it's, trust me, it's not. When you're preparing for spiritual practices or whatever, you are very beginner, so to speak. I think these things, they really help. They're like attention training. You are preparing for the transcendence of ego. So Bhava Samadhi is the final flowering of love into pure consciousness. This is exactly where Lord praises, exactly what he says in Bhagavad Puran. He says that I'm not attained by yoga, austerity, or practices, the study of the Vedas, sacrifices, charity, um, and penance, and all of that, but by those who call upon me with love. He mentions Prahlad, Hanuman, Gajendra, the gopis, and Sabri, and a lot of stories, all these beautiful, very ardent devotees, who loved him. None of them, they were philosophers or scholars. None of them performed these grand rituals or yogic practices or studied scriptures. They all attained him, right in front of their eyes, just through bhakti, through love. This bhava samadhi that I'm talking about, through unbroken remembering, smaran, a lot of sincerity, and of course pure love. He says that even those which are considered impure or worldly, like animals, demons, beings from different realms, all of them, they attained him through love alone, of course developed by the company of the saints. When again he says that bhava samadhi, you are able to retain it or sustain it more when you have satsang, when you are around people who are also in that same vibration. So when bhav, it matures into awareness, it just transforms into samadhi. You reach that stillness in love. You start observing the signs of spiritual progress. Swamiji has given a couple of signs of progress. If it's not too late already, I think it'll be good to mention. He says that contentment, cheerfulness, patience, a calm and unruffled mind, um, decrease in restlessness, sweetness of voice, eagerness for meditation, a growing desire to remain inwardly silent, and a natural pull towards solitude and company of the wise. All of these are symbols of purity and that you are progressing on your path. Before we begin talking about japa, I think it's important to say that association of the wise or the satsang, it's what removes the darkness of the heart. He says that company of the saints or the truth-oriented beings, it's the safest boat to row across the ocean of samsara. It fills your mind with light and turns your intellect towards the truth. So after inner offering, after visualization and devotion, just sit. Let all doing dissolve. Be motionless in the early morning and calm, and let awareness become self contained. When the silence begins to move like vibration within you, You'll feel that. You'll feel that in your body, in your mind, in your head, in your heart especially. And when this love, it starts repeating itself like a sound, and you are so engrossed in smaran, this um, mental worship, when you just know that the deity or Lord is with you all the time, that you are one with everything all the time, that vibration, it gives rise to japa. That is when you are most potent to receive benefits, so to speak, of performing japa. Because at that time you are ready. From offering, we move to remembering, and from mere form to mantra. Then even the form disappears and just the word remains. And that is when we start performing japa, which is the repetition of the divine name or anything that you wish to manifest. No? But here we are talking about the divine name. Lord Krishna says that of all sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of japa. So just imagine how important japa might be. Swamiji calls this the philosopher's stones, the divine elixir that makes one godlike. I was about to say godlight. I think there's a reason that word came. Anyway, so through Mansik Puja or the Manas Pūjā, the mind becomes still, and through Jap, it becomes luminous. But today is not the time when we're going to talk about it. All I want to say is that together they just complete each other. That visualization and then eventually Jap. They complete each other. But in the next video, we'll just explore how Jap is the most powerful practice for Kali Yuga and the inner sacrifice that transforms the mind itself into offering. When every single thing sort of comes and gets contained in one word, whether it's mantra or any name that you're chanting. Before I end, I would just like to reiterate what Swamiji has said, that your bhav, which means your attitude, your feeling, it should be that Atman, Ishwar, which means the deity or the Devata, and the mantra, they are all one. Only then comes the realization. If you like this video, please share it with someone who might like it too. Remember that you already have and you already are everything that's needed for worship. Your breath, your awareness, and your feeling. These are your altar, your flame, and of course your offering. So begin where you are, love sincerely, and offer inwardly. And then just rest in the stillness that comes after.